This is Sky News at 12, our top stories. Spinning out of control, Boris Johnson accused of trying to undermine the Prime Minister by backseat driving Brexit negotiations. A second man is arrested over the Parsons Green tube attack. We're live at Scotland Yard with the latest on a widening police investigation. Savings to students as the Chancellor considers slashing tuition fees by £5,000. And how the invisible artist disappears into his work. Good afternoon to you. The Home Secretary Amber Rudd has accused Boris Johnson of trying to undermine Theresa May by backseat driving the Brexit negotiations. The Foreign Secretary was accused of making a leadership bid after writing a newspaper article setting out his detailed vision for Brexit.
I don't want him managing the Brexit process. What we've got is Theresa May managing that process. Best result for the United Kingdom, but I'm sure we can.
Well, let's go live now to Westminster to get more on this, and our political correspondent Tamara Cohen. And Tamara, is it fair to say that the Cabinet is pretty split after Boris has written this article?
I think it's fair to say that the knives are out for Boris Johnson. Pretty scathing stuff there from Amber Rudd, but setting the stage for a lot of leadership speculation at the party conference. OK, Tamara, interesting stuff. Thanks very much. Now, counter-terrorism police investigating the Parsons Green tube attack have revealed they've made a second arrest. A 21-year-old was detained in West London late last night, and it follows a dramatic 24 hours for the police investigation. Now, officers made their first arrest early on Saturday when they detained an 18-year-old man in the departure lounge of Dover Ferry Port in Kent. Just hours later, armed police raided a house in Sunbury-on-Thames in Surrey. Properties in a number of surrounding roads were evacuated, but residents have now been allowed to return. Then just before midnight in nearby Hounslow, officers arrested a second man using powers under counter-terrorism legislation. Well, in a moment, we'll be getting the latest on the raid in Sunbury-on-Thames with Caterina Vitozzi. But first of all, let's go live to Scotland Yard, and Enda Brady is there for us. And Enda, this is a very fast-moving investigation, especially with this arrest that happened overnight.
Yes, fast-moving and a complex investigation as well. The police are remaining pretty tight-lipped. We've had a very short continue for quite some time.
OK, thanks ever so much for that update there, Enda. And, of course, as I was saying, Caterina Vitozzi is live in Sunbury-on-Thames, where that house was raided yesterday afternoon. And, Caterina, has there been much activity down there this morning?
Yes, the street where the property is located just behind me remains cordoned off. We could expect more arrests and certainly more raids associated with Friday's tube bombing. OK, Caterina, thanks very much. Tuition fees could be cut to £7,500 a year, saving students at least £5,000 over the course of a 3-year degree. The Sunday Times says the Chancellor is expected to make the announcement in his autumn budget in November. U2 and Ed Sheeran have both cancelled concerts in the US city of St Louis due to security concerns. Hundreds of protesters have gathered in the St Louis suburb of University City in the second day of protests over the acquittal of a white former police officer for the murder of a black suspect. Jason Stockley said he shot Anthony Lamar Smith in 2011 because he thought the man was reaching for a gun. President Trump may be ready to soften his stance on pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Europe's top climate official, Miguel Arias-Canetti, says the US has indicated it might stay in the agreement, but review some of the rules. But the White House is insisting that nothing has changed. Teachers say more than a quarter of England's secondary schools do not offer religious education, despite laws saying they must. The National Association for RE Teachers obtained unpublished data that revealed 1 in 4 secondary schools did not offer RE lessons in 2015. The main union of head teachers says that whilst there may not be lessons for RE, religious issues are covered in other areas of education, such as citizenship lessons and assemblies.
And it's mission accomplished for a British man and 5 others who've spent the last 8 months simulating a mission to Mars by living in an isolated dome on a Hawaiian volcano. It's the 5th experiment of its kind backed by NASA, aimed at testing how humans would react to extended periods of isolation. Now, a filmmaker who was scouting locations for the drug cartel series Narcos has been shot dead in Mexico. Carlos Munoz Portal was found in his car in a remote area in the centre of the country. Well, our reporter Phil Edwards is here for us now. A shocking story, Phil. Just bring us up to date.
Yeah, it's almost life imitating art, isn't it? Yes, he'd gone to a remote area of the country, some 40 miles north of the capital, Mexico City, to take photographs of potential locations, as you say, for the 4th series of Narcos. Now, this man, Mr. Portal, he was a go-to man for companies looking to film in his native Mexico. He'd been involved with the James Bond film Spectre and other films as well, Hollywood blockbusters Apocalypto and Fast and Furious.
So he found locations? He
found locations. He was a guy, he was born in Mexico, lives in Mexico, lived in Mexico, and that's what his job was, to find gritty and realistic settings, and it looks like he found one that was a bit too realistic. As you say, his body was found riddled with bullets. Netflix have put out the following short statement: "We are aware of the passing of Carlos Munoz Portal, a well-respected location scout, and we send our condolences to his family. The facts surrounding his death are still unknown as authorities continue to investigate." But violence is rife in this country, Mexico. 70 murders a day, would you believe? In May alone of this year, there were 2,186 murders, most of which have gone unsolved. In fact, one of his friends has taken to social media to say the truth behind his death may never be known. As I say, looking for somewhere gritty and realistic, and has paid the ultimate price.
All right, shocking stuff. Thanks ever so much for that, Phil. Now you're watching Sky News. Coming up, the Muslims from Myanmar now living in the UK. We'll have the latest on that after the break. Welcome back. Let's find out now what's coming up in the sports.
1:45.
Right, thanks very much for that. Now, Muslims from Myanmar now living in the UK have called on the British government to help stop what they call the ethnic cleansing happening in their home country. Rohingya Muslims fled to Britain as part of a UN rescue effort, and they say close relatives have been raped and murdered by military forces in Myanmar. Our correspondent Mike McCarthy has been talking to some of them.
They are among the lucky ones who managed to escape and enjoy in England, a world away from the blood relatives who continue to live in the shadow of oppression so far away. Mike McCarthy, Sky News, Bradford.
Donald Trump has repeatedly denied any collusion with Russia, but Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller is intensifying his investigation. It's now emerged that the FBI recently raided the home of Paul Manafort, the former chairman of the Trump campaign, who attended a meeting with a Russian lawyer at Trump Tower last year. Our US correspondent Cordelia Lynch reports now on an expanding probe.
The Russia controversy is clinging to the White House like glue. America losing faith in its own democracy. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Washington.
And you can see an extended report, Russia, the Insiders, at 1:30, 3:30 and 6:30 today. That's here on Sky News. Now, most artists want to be recognised, but not Lou Bolan. He's known within the art world as the Invisible Man and has spent well over a decade trying his best to disappear. Well, this weekend he's at the Start Art Fair in London, and for the first time he's allowing members of the public to actually see how he does it. Sky's arts correspondent Katie Spencer has been to meet him.
Vanishing in plain sight is a painstaking process for Lou Bolan.
Level of physical work that goes into this.
In becoming a shadow of himself, Bolan's work sets out to challenge us all, questioning the mark that any of us can really make on society at large. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Now, it's a pretty chilly day out there. Let's see if it's set to continue next week. Here's the weather.
Ensuring brighter days ahead. Blue Insurance Car Insurance. Proud sponsors of Sky News Weather.
Now you'll be pleased to hear that it will be fine for many today with good sunny spells, but there will also be some showers around, mainly over England and Wales. Now temperatures will be similar to yesterday, but with light winds it will feel a bit warmer. That's in the sunshine. Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland will be mainly dry with long spells of sunshine this afternoon, although there will also be a few light showers in the east, whereas England and Wales will see showers developing widely again. The showers will be concentrated across southeast England and East Anglia, where some may turn pretty heavy and thundery, much more scattered elsewhere. Quite a few northern and western parts will stay dry. England and Wales will see further showers tonight, mainly near to the east coast. Eastern Scotland may see a few showers later as well, but most other places will remain dry. It'll turn chilly again with a patchy ground frost and some mist and fog patches likely. England and Wales will see showers developing widely again on Monday, and eastern Scotland, I'm afraid, will see patchy rain. Most other places will be fine.
Blue Insurance Car Insurance, proud sponsors of Sky News Weather.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, of course, the Lib Dem conference in Bournemouth has begun. Vince Cable will be speaking on why he should be Prime Minister. We'll have the latest on that and plenty more coming up after the break. You're watching Sky News, the top stories. The Home Secretary Amber Rudd has accused Boris Johnson of trying to undermine the Prime Minister by what she thought backstreet driving the Brexit negotiations. A second man has been arrested over the Parsons Green terror attack. And reports suggest that the Chancellor is considering to lower tuition fees to £7,500 a year. Well, let's get more now on the latest developments in that police investigation into Friday's Parsons Green attack. This morning, Scotland Yard revealed that they had made a second arrest, and that follows an armed raid on a property in Sunbury-on-Thames yesterday. Sky's Katerina Vitozzi has this report.
This was a counter-terrorism operation where you might least expect it, at a suburban house on a quiet street in Surrey, connected with Friday's terror attack. Katerina Vitozzi, Sky News.
Well, the Home Secretary has described 2017 as a year like no other as police work to track down the people responsible for Friday's terror attack. Of course, that being on a tube in Parsons Green in Fulham. Now with us is former Special Branch Policing Counter-Terrorism Officer and terrorism expert, Dr. David Lowe. Thanks ever so much for your time this afternoon. First of all, what do you make of this investigation so far? Because we've seen a couple of raids, but all in all, the police seem to be pretty quite tight-lipped about the information that's coming out.
Yeah, we were talking about 48 hours now since the incident. It shows you how intensive the investigations have been, how the inquiries that they're following. And to date, there are two people, as you said, have been arrested. Of course, as I said, they've been arrested, so they're still suspected. Doesn't mean that they've done it. You know, we haven't got the evidence that they've proved this yet. We won't see that until any potential subsequent trials. But I think the Metropolitan Police, in particular, the Counter-Terrorism Unit SO15, appears to be on top of this investigation, and you know, there's still a lot of evidence to go through, certainly from the premises that they'll be searching and so on.
Yes, I suppose it's CCTV and such like, but where do the authorities and the government go from here? Because this year we've seen, 5 terror attacks in this country. How do they try and tackle extremism? Well,
this is a key issue that's been with us for many years. You know, you're sort of looking at individuals, and it looks as though it's a pattern not just in the UK, but more recently as well in Europe. Individuals who are citizens of that state, who've been influenced by a narrative, an extremist narrative. You know, this is where I think the PREVENT programme that we have here, that's part of the contest, the counter-terrorism programme for the government, that the PREVENT side of it is important. But I think it needs to be constantly revisited. To me, I know there's a lot of detractors for it, but I'm generally in favour of this programme. This is one way I think the government should be putting more resources, more assistance towards communities and all the local authorities involved in it to try and help them, because it's a pre-criminal stage. It's trying to stop people getting drawn into terrorism, and I think that's a way forward.
And Amber Rudd, the Home Secretary, has today said that when we leave the European Union, she wants to try and have measures in place so that we still have those connections with intelligence services across Europe and across the country. Are you worried about Brexit in terms of trying to crack down on terrorism?
Well, it's been an issue, again, that's been debated since post the referendum last year. Are we going to be safer out of the EU? But there's no doubt about it, not just for terrorism, but for organised crime too. You look at the various trafficking offences. There will be links between the remaining 27 member states and ourselves. So we will still be working with them. We'll be classed as a third country like the US, Canada or Australia is. So we'll still work. I think for me, that one regret is you look at the great work that's happened under the stewardship of Rob Wainwright, who obviously is British, and the British officers who were seconded there. The great advances in Europol that have taken over the last few years. It's just a shame that we won't be in it helping to develop Europol, but we will still be working with it. I think one other thing as well is the European arrest warrant. The UK is a great user of it. It's a speedier form of extradition. I think that's got to be negotiated as well, because if we go back to extradition treaties, this could take months, possibly up to 12 months, before a suspect is handed over and vice versa.
And just very briefly, your thoughts on Donald Trump's intervention yesterday when he suggested or hinted that the authorities knew who carried out the Parsons Green attack?
Well, it's very surprising. I mean, we've never seen this with a head of state, and certainly with the US president. We've normally seen them being more diplomatic in their negotiations, but Donald Trump seems to go to Twitter first before he speaks to anybody. And I think he was basically incorrect in making the assumption that people are known. He should look to his own country first and look at the flaws they've got, and perhaps have a bit more understanding and work as we have done in the past with the US, which has always been on a good footing.
All right, thanks ever so much for your expertise. Appreciate your time this lunchtime.
You're welcome.
Now, we've got some breaking news to bring you, and police forensics teams are at a property in West London. That, of course, follows the arrest of a 21-year-old man about midnight, and the Parsons Green terror attack, of course, happened on Friday. Let's get more on this now from our reporter, Dan Whitehead, who's there. Dan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Rebecca, this only happened in the last couple of minutes. A police cordon has just gone up outside a property here in West London, and I have been told that this is linked to the wider and fast-paced investigation into the Parsons Green incident on Friday, proving to be very fast-paced this weekend with yet another search underway here. OK, Dan, thanks ever so much for that update there. Now, Brexit is likely to be one of the dominant issues at the Liberal Democrats conference, which is getting underway in Bournemouth today. The party's new leader, Sir Vince Cable, is expected to try to convince voters of the dangers of Brexit and campaign to keep Britain in the single market. We're reporting now from Bournemouth is our senior political correspondent, Robert Nisbet.
On a clear day, you can see the French coast from Bournemouth Beach, a perfect conference setting for the party which wants us to stay close to Europe, is not a rerun of the referendum. The fight back starts again here in Bournemouth. Robert Nisbet, Sky News.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up in the sport, the judging controversy following the latest super fight in Las Vegas.
For Swift Care, join VHI Healthcare.
Now, a bit of breaking news for you, and police are calling for a mother to come forward, a mother of a newborn baby. They found the baby abandoned earlier on this morning in East London, in the Newham area. They are calling for the mother to come forward so that she can receive medical care and support. Now, the baby's been taken to a London hospital, and just reading here that medical staff have called him Harry. So that breaking news that police are appealing for the mother of that newborn baby to come forward and get medical help. Let's take a look at the sport now, shall we?
This sports bulletin is brought to you by Vitality.
Buongiorno. Buongiorno.
For life insurance that rewards healthy living.
Good afternoon. Champions Chelsea can move within a point at the top of the Premier League this afternoon by beating Arsenal. It's much more over on Sky Sports News. We're back in the next hour.
For for life insurance that rewards healthy living. Vitality.
Well, let's take a look at the weather now.
From cool, brisk northern fjords to the warm, tranquil waters of Southeast Asia.
It'll be fine for many with good sunny spells, but there will be showers around, mainly over England and Wales. Temperatures will be similar to yesterday, but with light winds, we'll see pretty warmer spells in the sunshine. Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland will be mainly dry with long spells of sunshine this afternoon, but there will be a few light showers in the east, whereas England and Wales will see showers developing widely again. The showers will be concentrated across southeast England and East Anglia, where some may turn heavy and thundery, much more scattered elsewhere, and quite a few northern and western parts will also stay pretty dry.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, the Home Secretary accuses Boris Johnson of backseat driving over Brexit negotiations. We'll have more on that coming up after this very short break.